Okay, you want to choose the interview?
This is our interview with TJ. We really enjoyed it. This album,
He's a complete Renaissance man.
I forgot to ask him if he has a beard, man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we
A lot of
really,
hair on that man.
really enjoy this band. Got a lot of enjoyment about finding more about the making of this album and why he wears usually just shorts.
Okay, take it away.
Great seeing you again. I don't know if you remember us briefly from Hell in the Harbor.
We kind of accosted you when you were coming up to the merch table after your show.
Was it me?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
you. Yeah, because I laid this big spiel on you about how when Reed Mullen died, I thought, how great it was we still have a TJ Childers. And it seemed like it was just a little much for you just coming off the show. So sorry about that.
Played.
No. Now that you're saying the thing about Reed, I remember. Did I tell you my Reed story?
No, it'd be great.
We played this fest in Lexington, Kentucky in 2013, I believe it was. I can't remember the name of the fest. But COC headlined. It was it Scion? Anyway, COC headline, and we didn't get to see him, but I wound up hanging out with Reed Riley, who's in Rewake.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so I was just walking around, and I was pretty drunk, and they were in a TGI Fridays at the bottom of a hotel, and I just looked in and saw him. I was like, there's Reed Riley. He's sitting with Reed Mullen. So I walked up to him. It's like, Reed Riley, what's going on, man? He's like, hey, DJ, what's going on? This is Reed Mullen. And Reed was kind of drunk, and he sort of had his head down. He goes, hey, I'm Reed. And stuck his hand out. I was like, hey, man, I'm TJ. And I bullshit with Reed Riley for a second. And then Reed would smack Reed Mullen, and he'd wake up and flip his hair up again, his blonde hair. And he'd go, hey, man, I'm Reed. I go, hey, I'm still TJ. And that happened.
It sounds like he was having a good time. Yeah.
So really loves the new album.
Great.
Yeah. Gosh, we've been spinning it a lot here and really absorbing it. It takes a while. I want to say, it was great on the first listen, but every time through you discover a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we really love it. But way back at the beginning, how did you come up with that Inner Armor moniker, like, in times of war?
Honestly, it was just a placeholder at first because we couldn't decide on a band name.
Okay. Yeah.
And somebody, it's been lost in the sands of time as to who actually came up with it. But somebody just said, what about Inner Arma? And we were like, yeah, that sounds weird enough and cool enough to hold us out for like 2 or 3 shows until we figure out what we actually want to call the fucking band. And here we are 18 years later, and it's still Inner Arma.
It's a great name though, because it doesn't pigeonhole you into a certain type of music. You know what I mean? It could be anything. And I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those cases of, I think the band makes the name. Unfortunately, we don't have a super cool name like Motorhead or Discharge or something.
Right,
but,
exactly.
But I mean, honestly, fuck for the. Can I curse?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually.
Cool. Fuck yeah. It's sort of a fitting name for everything that's been going on, the last couple of years, because it's part of a longer Latin phrase that means in the time of war, laws will be silent. So there you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like we've gone off the deep end there.
It really does.
It's just like you can't believe what in the world it's happening. It's like this is 2024. This is not
medieval. Well, seeing like on social media, seeing the speed of the attacks is something that I never thought I'd, you don't realize how overwhelming some of these, like when these places are attacked, it's incredible. I mean,
Well, I mean, and that's the I have to say the blessing side of social media is, that isn't something that would have happened even in the Iraq war. There wasn't this immediacy with all the coverage of everything that was going on. You didn't see things happening almost literally in real time. Yeah. And it sheds not just a light, a fucking a spotlight on how fucked up everything that's going on is in the world, and people are justified in their outrage for all of it because they can literally just pick up their phone and see exactly what the hell's going on. So if social media is good for anything, that's one good thing.
Yeah, that's true.
You get to hear it from the people.
It's one thing to read a headline that says, that people were bombed, but to actually have it come through on your phone and you see the devastation immediately, that's really something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you guys have had a pretty stable lineup. The only one that seems like it's jockeyed around a lot is bass player.
Yeah.
So why do you think that was, in your opinion? And have you finally found your match with Joel Moore?
Well, to go way back on that question, even when I was a little kid in my dad's cover band, it was always the fucking bass player. I mean, we went through them like a toddler goes through underwear. It was just
that's great.
nonstop. Fucking, so all through my musical life, I've always had problems with the bass player. I don't know why that is, but getting Joel in the band was the best thing that could have happened to us at that moment, because he's an unbelievable musician. He speaks the language. I don't have to tell him, okay, play on the first fret. I can say, this is a D. This is a G. The song's in the key of E minor, and he knows where to go and what to do. And
that's great, man.
And on top of that, he's technically a great musician. He's a killer ripping guitar player. He's a great songwriter. He has his own solo shit that is like this weirdo avant-garde black metal thing that he's written. It's fucking amazing. And he's a killer engineer. He does front of house for bands. He records records. So even him being able to speak that language, I mean, the story of us recording drums for the record is a whole other fucking saga. We walked into the studio, and for very, very long story short, it looked like the coolest episode of Hoarders, where there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of musical equipment just scattered all around. But Joel, having experience in studios, was able to work with our guy Mikey, who recorded the record, and was like, okay, let's do this, and really get things happening. If Joel hadn't have been there, I don't know that we would have made it through that portion of the session. We had to call a fucking audible. So having Joel has just been a godsend, to say the very least.
That's great.
It's weird with me, like having talked to a couple different bassists. If they only play bass, they're very introverted. If they do a lot of different things, then they're not. It's the weirdest phenomenon.
We've noticed that. Yeah.
I mean, I could think of other musicians and even people in non-musical fields who really kind of only do one thing, and they're usually kind of a little bit more inward, introverted type of people. So it must be some theory going on there with that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, so you guys were together for several years before you put out Sundown. Do you have any fond memories of those early days, or what are some cool memories of those early Green days that you can remember?
Oh man, there's a lot of memories that I don't remember. I mean, there was a couple different kind of DIY venues around Richmond, and we were like the house band at a couple of those places.
Okay.
Like, there's a place called Nara Sushi. It was literally a sushi joint, and they had punk shows there and metal shows, and I bet we played there 50 times. Mike has all this shit, our vocalist, written down somewhere. Okay. And I bet we played there 59. Strange Matter, the venue that closed down a couple of times, which that goes way down further into the future. We played there 29 times. But yeah, I mean, playing house shows, playing in basements, touring in our old 77 Ford Econoline van with the some of the floors were rusted out.
Yeah. You're doing the Rollins, getting the band. Yeah.
Doing early tours and that shit, and sleep. I mean, we played in Phil. I think the first time we played in Philadelphia, we got paid in like with like $7 and change and a broken microphone. It's like, here, this is all we have for you tonight.
Oh my God.
Right, but you're like, we got money. People paid us to hear our music. Like there's still pride. You know what I mean? Might not be a lot of money. Yeah.
$7 will go get us a couple 40s or something, I guess.
Well, what was it? How did you guys end up moving to Relapse? Like your first record was an indie, and then like how did they come to discover you? Was that a was there a story to that, or did they just kind of come to a show or what?
Well, we had already recorded Sky Burial, and we were definitely touring our asses off, and we kind of stepped it up at that point. And we'd done a couple full US tours and played a lot of shows, and played up in Philadelphia and New York a bunch. And I think there was a little bit of a buzz around us, and then somebody passed the record off to somebody at Relapse, and they got in touch with us and they're like, hey, we would love to work with you, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's the label to be on for, I mean, that for that time especially. I mean, the early 2000s, it seemed like every cool band was on Relapse. I mean, it was just one after another.
I didn't even really know much about underground music, and I heard Mastodon and ordered Leviathan from Relapse, and then got, when they used to send the Resound magazines, back in the early 2000s, got that. And then found out about all these other bands. And I didn't even really know about underground music at that time. I'd seen Mastodon on MTV2. It's like, this is cool, I want this record. And that was, back when you had to make a lot of concerted effort to get a fucking album or CD.
Yeah, so I was thinking, Richmond doesn't jump to mind as like a hotbed of like, extreme music. But then, I mean, you got Guar, you got Municipal Waste, Lamb of God. Who are kind of your favorite Richmond-based bands that you could think of?
Well, my favorite Richmond band that's been my favorite Richmond band for quite a long time is Battle Master. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them. They're like the best band that no one seems to know about. Then before that, God, I remember seeing Alabama Thunder Pussy up around Northern Virginia years ago, and being floored by them.
Yeah.
They were actually opening up for the Misfits.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember standing right in front of them and being like, who are all these guys with long hair and beards? And then they started playing, and there's this heavy Southern rock. I was like, oh, this is fucking cool.
Yeah, if you name your band Alabama Thunder Pussy, you got to bring it. I mean, you can't half-ass that.
You definitely not fuck around if you name your band something that over the top.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you were in Windhand for just a brief time, right? You played bass for Windhand for a while. Why was that?
I was never officially in Windhand. I filled in on bass for 2 shows. Filled in on drums for a show.
Okay.
And then I played some synth on an EP they put out a long time ago. And
they're a good band. I always like them. They're a good band. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known those guys for a very long time.
So I was listening. I finally got a chance to kind of crack open Garber Days Revisited. So I'm sure that was kind of everybody kind of did like a pandemic driven products. But how did you pick what you wanted to do? Because you got Cro-Mags on there, you got Prince on there, you got Ministry, Scarecrow. So, and it looks like you wanted to include a wide group. Did you all just kind of pick, or?
That's exactly it. We wanted to be sort of a wide ranging variety of tunes that represented not only what we sound like and what bands and artists that are influences to us, but some other things that you may not realize that we're into, i.e., the Tom Petty tune and the Prince tune, and some of those songs were songs that we'd already covered in the past, because we've always done, well, not always, but here and there we've done cover sets for different reasons, whether it was like a benefit show or whatever, and that's ranged from like old school punk rock covers to we'd actually covered March of the Pigs a few years before we ever recorded it, so it was just those reasons.
Do you ever still include any in a set list currently, or does anyone ask you for any of them?
Well, when we played Roadburn a couple weeks ago, we did a whole Neil Young cover set.
Oh,
so not only did we do Southern Man, and we did Ohio, which we recorded for something a couple years ago, we learned 6 or 7 more songs and sort of reworked them all to sound a little bit more like us, but still like Neil Young.
Yeah, that Roadburn Festival looked amazing. I was checking out that lineup today. I mean, you had everybody from Duel to Loud,
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Did you get to check out anybody else? Yeah.
I only got to check out a couple other bands, because if you're playing, it's a little bit harder to be moving around. But I got to see Thanafaxif, they put out one of my favorite records of the last 10 years last year. And who else did I got? It was such a blur, I can't even remember now. I got to see a little bit of Couch Slut. There's more. I'm fucking blanking right now.
I know it's hard. We when we go to shows, like we have MDF this weekend, and we've learned to just go with the flow, because it's like a military operation with the bands. It's they got to get on, they got to get off. So
yeah, I feel like in a situation like that where there are multiple stages, the best tactic is to just maybe each day pick out 2, maybe 3 bands that you'll be able to catch that aren't overlapping or whatever.
Right.
And then yeah, it's kind of whatever you catch in between then,
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a little bit better set up. Like Hell in the Harbor, I hated because they had overlapping a lot. And sometimes we'd be like, all right, we're doing 20 minutes of this, but I want to see the end of this. Some of that you had to kind of pick and choose. But this year, it's pretty well set up because there's 2 outside stages and they go off literally as one end. So you really don't have to miss. So I like that better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it worked out well.
So how are the crowds in the Netherlands?
Fucking amazing. I mean, all 3 of the shows we played were packed, and if you guys have never been to Roadburn, you should 100% go. I mean,
it's on our list to go. We really want to go.
Yeah, make the trek, make the pilgrimage. It's the best heavy music festival in the world. It's the way it's curated, the way it's run, the way they treat the artists, the way they even just hold. I feel like it's one of the few fests, and I don't mean to talk shit about other fests. Some other fests I do mean to talk shit about, but the way they put the art above fucking commerce, because they want bands to come do weird, crazy, off the wall shit. I mean, they had us play a fucking Neil Young cover set, for God's sake. I mean, they had Blood Incantation play their synth record. I can't remember the name of it right now.
The Krautrock thing. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they just have they encourage bands to come get outside of their comfort zone, so to speak. And I mean, to me, that's just the shit. As much as I want to see a band play a greatest hit set, which we did, seeing a band do something really off the wall, I think is just super cool.
So I really love how you juxtapose kind of like light and dark, soft and heavy. What were your biggest influences on bringing that style? Although a lot of times if I'm reviewing another band, I say they play like you. So maybe it's coming from you.
There's not really any specific bands I would say that influenced us to do that sort of thing. it's just always kind of been there. And I think that's due to the fact that we have, you know, quieter, more melodic songs, and we have the crazier, faster death metal, black metal type of songs. And also, I mean, a lot of the best songs in general, especially if you're talking about, you know, heavy metal, big epic, I hate that term when it's used that way, but grandiose type of songs, it's more, takes you on more of a ride if there are dynamics. If there are dynamics and it crescendos up to a thing and then maybe even drops back down and then builds back up again to really, you know, blast off. It just makes for a much more interesting listen. So that's part of the reason why. That, and I mean, I guess subconsciously we are, and I would say I in particular am influenced by you know, the records where there's lots of contrast. You know, even like the one that comes to mind is Houses of the Holy. You know, it starts out dink 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 dink, and then goes into Rain Song, and you know, it's kind of all over the place. And even within those songs, there's light and shade. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was trying to turn a friend of mine on to Inter Arma earlier on. It was several years ago. And I described it. I said, it's like those Neurosis albums, except you won't want to kill yourself after the song's over. Because I mean, seeing Neurosis in like the 90s, it was like so great. But we walked out of there and I was just like, I gotta find something happy here. I mean, I've just been, you know, misery for 3 hours, you know.
I mean, I only got to see him. I saw him twice now that I'm thinking about it, and I didn't feel sad, but they were definitely draining. Like you felt,
yeah,
even
that's a draining, right?
Yeah. Even though you're just standing there watching them, it's like you feel like, man, I need to maybe like go take a nap or something right now. I'm tired.
Yeah, yeah, definitely an experience. Yeah,
Maybe a cup of coffee after that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So for New Heaven, it seems like such an interesting title for kind of what is like darker material. How did the title come about? And I was kind of curious. I couldn't quite get my head around what New Heaven would mean.
Well, it it started out as a joke. We were talking about Death Heaven and how this was all in jest about how they are very popular now, and we toured with them back in the day, and like, well, like they're never going to take us on tour again. They're the new Death Heaven. It's the New Heaven.
Yeah.
And,
okay, got it. Yeah.
And then Mike just wrote that down and stuck with it, and then it wound up becoming a song. And that title was chosen because this record is a bit of a pivot for us, I would say. Even though all the records are kind of a pivot, but we definitely focus more on trying to write more concise songs this time around. And so we did feel like it was something kind of fresh. And so the title New Heaven just made sense in that regard, but also in the regard of not to harp on it too much, but the world's kind of in a fucked up dark place right now. And we've always, that this record, especially because of, you know, everything that's going on, there's sort of an underlying message of, yeah, things are shitty, but if we stick together and persevere and try to get through all the bullshit, we think things can be better, and, you know, try to shine light on the positive. And so that was the other kind of half of it. It's just, yeah, things are bad, but things will get better. They have to. Yeah, you have to have hope. You have to have something to hang on to, and hopefully we'll get to the New Heaven. Yeah,
when we first listened to that song, I was like, did Did you hit Demolic?
Yeah, the band, you know the band Demolic from Finland, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that first song, it sounds like Demolic to me. It's got that. I mean, it didn't have like a paragraph for a title, you know, like the monster that lived under the, you know, all that. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my God, they're channeling Demolic. This is great. Yeah.
It's funny. Everyone I talk to seems to hear a different band in that song in particular.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I talked to a guy yesterday, and he said it sounded like Converge.
Okay.
And at first I was like, huh? And then I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I guess like some of their weird, kind of more off the wall, noisier things they do, I could see Converge in there. And then other people have said it sounds like Gorguts. Other people have said it sounds like Thanafaxis. Other people have said it sounds like Morbid Angel, which I'll take all those.
Yeah, they're all good bands. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll take any of that.
Yeah, that's such a crazy dissonant riff.
It's the dissonance and then the
Yeah.
way your drums come in, and then he's so growly. That's what made me think of Demolic. So yeah. Yeah.
That riff was.
I remember I interviewed Jake Bannon from Converge years ago when they first signed to, what was it? What's that label? It was like a hardcore label. Anyway, they signed to some like punk rock label, and I was like,
Epitaph.
Epitaph. I was like, you're
Yeah.
done. You're done. You're gonna sound like Dropkick Murphys now. You know, like I was young and I was really concerned.
I remember a lot of people saying that when they signed to Epitaph.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they put out some of the fucking heaviest records they ever put out.
Mhm. Exactly. So yeah. But that was me. I was like, how can you sign to this label? Yeah. So, he was like, it's gonna be heavy, don't worry.
I definitely think that was one of my favorites, though. But like you said, there's such a variety here. But I think The Children That the Bombs Overlooked was just a really interesting take, not to focus on the devastation, but who lived. You know, was this inspired by any particular event or just general shit going on? And who had the idea to kind of take it from that survivor's guilt feeling?
Well, that's all Mike, as all the lyrics are. And that's another song that we've gotten a lot of questions about because of everything that started to happen on October 7th. And that song was written before that, even though it's pretty much about that. But it's just an anti-war, anti-genocide song in particular. And, you know, if anything, it probably when he was writing those lyrics was probably speaking more about Ukraine and other things that were going on pre you know, all the Gaza Strip stuff. So yeah.
How do you guys put songs together? Do you jam a lot, or does everybody have stuff that is kind of on their hard drive and then you put it together? Like, how do you guys put songs together?
Yeah, any of us will bring in a riff or an idea. I mean, okay, perfect example, Children the Bombs Overlooked. I came up with those drum parts first.
Aha, I was right.
Which that doesn't usually happen. Usually I'll come up with a guitar part. Like I came up with the riffs in New Heaven, but in that instance, I was fucking around by myself and I was playing those patterns. And I was like, oh, they kind of like, there's a dichotomy, but there's also a continuity between the two things. It's sort of like a polyrhythmic shift that happens. I think this is cool. So I had those things. And then I think I came up with the riff over top, but then also thought that the idea of doing the super like low octave harmonies sound really like fucked up and demented over top of it. So and then we just would jam on that, and then the other parts kind of just fell into place as we jammed on it. And that's how really all the songs are written. Just an idea that somebody brings in, we'll jam on it, see how it feels, where it takes us. And then if it's cool and we're vibing on it, then we'll add a verse, we'll add a bridge, chorus, whatever, and just mold it from there, essentially.
When you guys aren't on tour, how often do you get together to jam? Is it like a regular thing, or?
It's pretty regular. Certainly if we're in between two tours and there's only like a week or two or whatever to be off, we don't really worry too much about rehearsing then. But if we're if we're writing or we really are buckling down, like before Roadburn, we were working on playing the whole record and then also all those Neil Young songs. So we were rehearsing at least 2 or 3 days a week then.
Yeah.
And if we're writing, we'll usually do like 2 or 3 days a week as well. So usually at least 2 days a week.
I think one of my other favorite takeaways from this album was Concrete Cliffs. Great video, by the way. I don't know who came up with all those ideas. The guy in the box, kind of in the hole. I said, that's how I feel at work. So for that, I guess the Concrete Cliffs is like a city or skyscrapers. I wasn't sure kind of where your themes were on that.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost literally define it, cliffs made of concrete. Yeah, and the same idea kind of fell in with the video as well. Just photos of this was a word that I didn't even know existed. I thought it was just something that 15-year-old boys said. Brutalist construction, brutalist architecture, rather.
Okay.
Photos of that or videos of that, and then the song itself is I don't want to say it's about suicide. If anything, it's more of again an anti-suicide song, and it's saying, hey, we know that people feel this way. We also feel this way, so it's going to, again, things will be better.
Yeah, I really got that feeling. And who ended up having to go down in the hole?
That was Mike. He was really stoked about having to do that. Let me tell you. He was over the moon about having to climb down into a big old fucking wooden box.
I was gonna say, did he like draw the shortest straw or something? I mean,
yeah, he drew the shortest straw when he decided to be the standalone vocalist in the band.
Okay, there you go. Right. Yeah, it was a long time ago that he just, All right, well, we play a game on the show, so hopefully you're down with the game. So it's called Blaspheming Monikers, okay? So here's how it works. I have 5 band names in front of me. One of them I made up. So you're going to try to guess which one of these is not a real band, okay?
All right.
Okay. Blood Opera, Blood Stronghold, Blood Valley, Blood Expectoration, and Blood Ritual.
All right, Blood Ritual I've heard of. None of the others I've ever heard of, but I'm just going to take a wild guess.
Okay.
Blood Valley.
Very good. Very
Ding,
good.
ding.
You got it right out of the blocks.
That was total fucking luck.
Yeah, all the other ones are real. Blood Opera, Blood Stranglehold, and Blood Expectoration. So yeah.
I was
Right.
gonna guess
Very
that
good.
one at first, but then I was like, that I've never even heard that fucking word before, and I love 50 Cent words. So it's probably a real band.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was very good. Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Some of these bands, I look them up on Metal Archives, and I'm like, God, did you take 5 minutes to come up with a name? I mean, good Lord.
That's the long running joke of just combining goat, skull,
Goat, blood, right? Yeah.
whatever.
Death.
Yeah, whatever other stupid fucking buzzword you can think of.
So going back with your drum line is so strong and the children is a bomb overlooked and it's so commanding. Did you have formal training or are you self-taught?
I never had formal training, but my dad showed me, even though he's a guitar player, he showed me some basics of drums when I was 5, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I never took real lessons. I never learned rudiments or even like really good technique. I did sort of teach. I've taught myself some rudiments. I know like 4. And I went in my 20s when I got more serious about playing metal. and I just wanted to get faster with double bass and my hands and everything. I started to focus more on technique, but I wish I would have taken some lessons when I was younger. It probably would have sped things up a little bit for me, but I got into skateboarding I still skate, but and then I started playing guitar when I was 13. So drums actually kind of fell by the wayside for a couple years in my teens, and the guitar took over. So,
well, I think you're like the next generation, but who were some of the drummers that you say, wow, I can't play that shit? Like, who are some of your heroes?
Well, my heroes, it's my big three. I always say is John Bonham, Tommy Aldridge, and Gene Hoglan. But luckily I can play most of that stuff at this point. But shit, I go on Instagram and just see kids playing all kinds of shit that I'll never be able to play.
And it's crazy, isn't it? I know.
Yeah. But also I kind of, and I don't mean to talk shit, but it's with any instrument, you kind of hit a glass ceiling with speed where it starts to sound not cool after it's going so fast. Like, it's cool that you can play that fast, and it's a nice tool to have in the tool belt, but I'd rather just hear a quick flurry of notes, as opposed to like 5 minutes of 128th notes.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's like, even drummers who can play like 280 beats per minute, like, it doesn't really sound cool. It kind of sounds goofy to me. But I'm old, so whatever.
I feel the same way though. Sometimes I'm like, is that a drum machine? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how nuts.
We had John Paul from Clutch on the show, and we talked about that movie Whiplash, and he actually had a guy like that taught him drums.
Really?
He said he held a gun to his head and stuff. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's on the show. I mean, it's worth watching it. He had some great stories. They opened for Sepultura on the what was it? The not Beneath the Remains. One of their, incredible tours with Cavalera. And he talks about that. Yeah. I mean, he's really something. John Paul from Clutch is a great drummer. Yeah.
I love his playing. He's a great example of, and I talk about this all the fucking time, of a drummer who understands the pocket and understands how to play for a song and isn't worried about, blasting and double bass the entire fucking time.
Has your kit always remained primarily the same? I mean, I know you don't have chimes and ridiculous stuff.
I got some. I have a gong.
Do you? Okay, all right.
Yeah. And I have rototoms.
Okay.
It's kind of changed actually. When I was 7 or 8, my dad pretty much made me a drum set that he just compiled out of other drum kits and stripped them all and stained them so they all looked about the same. And I had 1, 2, 3, 6, 8. I had a 9-piece kit when I was a little kid. And then I got into punk and I stripped it down to a 4. And then I got back into a metal band and it was a 6-piece. And then I lost one, or it was a 7-piece, and I lost one tom. So it's been the configuration it's been now for probably 15 years. But it has changed over the years.
Have you always played shirtless? Is that like a uniform for you? Because you get hot?
No, it wasn't really until we started to really tour. People laugh about it all the time. It's more of a hygiene issue, because I'm not going to bring like a gigantic suitcase of clothes with me on tour. So the solution to that is I have a pair of shorts that I play in every night, because I fucking sweat so much when I play.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. All the pictures you see of like Alex Van Halen back in the day, he's always just wearing just shorts. It's just.
I mean, it is kind of a classic look. And, you think about Alex Van Halen and Terry Bozzio and probably even, old Tommy Aldridge when he's with Ozzy, he's back there fucking wailing, and he's got like little booty shorts on.
And Matt Pike, forever shirtless.
That's right.
Forever.
He's still shirtless.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw them 2 weeks ago. They were fucking fantastic. Cody's playing drums for him now. That's my guy.
Yeah.
I didn't think Des Kenzel could ever be replaced. I was shocked. God, the new guy's so good.
Well, I mean, were you a Big Business fan before he joined High on Fire?
I like Big Business, yeah, but I saw High on Fire with Des so many times, and those drums were kind of like your drumming. It just kind of pulled me in. It was such a signature sound, and I don't know how he nailed it so well. It's great. I mean, yeah.
He's. I mean, I love Des too, and when he left, I was like, those are some pretty fucking big shoes to fill.
Big deal, yeah.
And I never even thought of Cody being the guy, but once it was announced that he was the guy, I thought that makes perfect fucking sense because Cody is another perfect guy who like knows the pocket, but also like writes riffs on the drum set. He has so many I'm a huge Big Business fan, and he has so many drum beats in their songs that are like I remember them very clearly and succinctly.
Yeah, I really like Come As the Storm. It's good.
It turned out great.
I'm always a little nervous, but they stayed true. They held on.
It's really good.
Like you guys, I was like, oh, yay, it's back. It's back. I even like the little kind of departures, that you did on like Gardens in the Dark and Forest Road Service Blues, because it almost sounds like it's a grunge song that's slowed down a little bit. I really liked the departure there. It was neat.
Thank you. Yeah, that was going back to Neil Young. And it's kind of our little tip of the hat to Neil, a very sad acoustic song in the key of A minor. It doesn't get more Neil Young than that.
Yeah. Another thing I love about you guys is that like your second and third albums, you kind of toyed with Floyd a little bit, but you made it through. Like there's some bands that when they go down the Floyd route, they never come back. Like Queensryche and Hammers of Misfortune got kind of sidetracked for a while. But you guys, you always kept the heavy. It's great. So
yeah, I mean, we're still if you have to say that we're one genre of music, gun to my head, like John Paul's drum teacher.
right, exactly. Yeah.
We're still a death metal band, so we're always gonna come back to the heavier side of things. But yeah, I know what you mean. There's certain bands who have kind of gone down the melodic route and they never really come back. It's like, oh, yeah. See you later.
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah, I like the fact that you have both. And the cover is excellent for this. It almost looks like he's on the surface of the moon with the Aurora Borealis.
Yeah, how did you come across the artwork for this one? Like,
so we met a guy who's a fan of the band. His name is Louis Palou, and turns out that he is a pretty big time photographer. And Mike was actually looking through his portfolio on his website and found that photo and said, I think this would be perfect for the album cover. And we got in touch with him and he agreed to let us use it. And that's pretty much how it went down. And that's why if you buy a copy of the vinyl, there's nothing else on the cover. It doesn't say Enter Arma New Heaven on the cover, because we wanted to treat it like a piece of art, because it is art by an actual artist. I mean, the guy, he's a member of the Guggenheim Association, and he's shot photographs in Guantanamo Bay and all these fucking crazy places.
Oh, wow.
And so we wanted to really treat it as a piece of art.
Really, it's effective. I think it somehow captures kind of that feeling of darkness, but the light, it's just perfect.
Yeah.
So what's coming up next for you guys? Now that you're recovered from Roadburn?
Right.
We have a record release show here in Richmond on June 7th. And then like the first week or so of July, we start. It's about a month-long run with Paul Bear, and we're
Oh, wow.
doing like 2/3 of the United States or something like that. And then we have a little bit of time off playing. I think we're going to play a couple shows here and there, but then the next big thing is we're going to Europe in the fall, and we leave in October. And then I think we're still kind of working out all the details on that, but I think we're going to be gone for about a month as well for that one.
Do you get a good response in Europe? The crowds are good.
Yeah. We love touring Europe, and it's funny touring over there because hip hop never really took over the way it took over here in the United States. So rock and roll and just heavy metal and guitar based music in general never really went away there. So there's still a scene there, and just the fests in Europe. Most people that they're always fucking crazy. So yeah, the response is great. The tours are great over there. We love touring over there.
And we heard that from Riot 5 about Japan, that it's the same way. And, rock and roll is king there. That's what they're about. And it's just the fans are just rabid.
Yeah. We haven't been to Japan yet, but that's definitely someplace we want to go. A buddy of mine who's in a pretty kind of legendary grindcore band called Suppression here in town. They just toured Japan and a bunch of other Asian countries, and it looks and sounds like it was the fucking greatest time ever.
Yeah.
And kids, just like you said, kids are fucking rabid, just can't get enough of it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Understood. Yeah.
Well, we hope to catch you back this way in Baltimore at some point.
Yeah.
Whether it be another Hell in the Harbor or
Something adjacent.
We'll be back up there, if not this year, then definitely next year. We're overdue for a Baltimore show, like an actual Inner Arma Baltimore show, not just playing the fest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, keep doing what you're doing. We're big fanboys and fangirls here, so keep doing what you're doing.
And thank everyone for this album. It's amazing.
It's great. Yeah.
I will, and thank y'all.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.